Teach children the value of compounding, value of investing. Today I want to talk about things that people never learn from school. At least 7 things that people would do well to learn or even teach their children in life. Most of these things are never taught at school. The first thing that people never tell you at school is that money is tied to value. You can't get money unless you deliver something of value to somebody else. In fact, Xx said that you can get all the money you want, I'm paraphrasing, as long as you serve enough people. So money is tied to value. You can't get it for free. You got to provide something of value, be it going to work, be it performing music so that you get money. Find something that you can do with your own hands that people really want, which people are prepared to pay for. That is where money comes from. People will be willing and happy to pay you. So you are judged based on what is your value or your contribution on the market for what you are bringing there. So value and worth are correlated. So essentially, you need to look at yourself and try and understand what your contribution is. And your contribution will be the basis on which you'll be paid. Is it not fair? Probably. Sometimes not everything that you contribute has a value or as a price on which people can decide and determine what price it is. But essentially, this is the lesson that you need to have been taught in school, that your contribution is going to be determining what your worth is. The second thing is that people are different and you are different. You have your own point of view and your point of view distinguishes you and your way of doing things. And therefore, that means your opinion needs to be different and accepted as different. We are in the business of trying to fit. And part of the problem of that trying to fit is that at school, we have read books which tells us how things ought to be. And we think that our opinion is the only correct opinion. Schools don't teach that your opinion is important. They don't teach that. They teach that there is an opinion which is correct for a number of things. If you get that right at school, if you follow a certain way of thinking, you will be considered to be right. If you, for example, the school generally says that if you pass, you are likely going to be successful. That is not necessarily true. Passing at school does not necessarily guarantee success for any individual. It simply guarantees that an individual is able to perform certain calculations and computations or reason certain things along a certain way or recall certain things. So the world tends to venerate or worship people who conform. And yet the market itself has opportunities for everyone. There's opportunities for people who don't necessarily agree to certain opinions. And as long as they don't agree and they explain and are able to explain their position, they can make it and succeed. So think of people like Steve Jobs. People who never really finished school. They made it successfully in their own pursuits. But, caution, I'm not saying don't study at school. All I'm trying to say here is that there is an opportunity for you to be different. And being different is normal. And should not be taken as if you have a different opinion, you are wrong. You are not necessarily wrong. But there is a market and an opportunity for you to propagate your own ideas and bring them to the market. As long as they can help other people and create opportunities for others, there will be an opportunity for you as well to grow and to succeed. Budgeting provides you freedom of control and direction of your own life. Nobody is making a decision for you. But if you don't budget and you discover things as you go, you will crash most of the time. All you end up doing is a situation where you end up running out of money and not knowing it, and disappointing yourself and disappointing the people you live. It's important to learn about budget. At school, kids are never taught so much about budgeting. Yet budgeting is very important for them to learn as a skill so that when they leave school, the first thing that they know is to be able to control what they have and manage what they have. And make sure that they are in control. They are making decisions on things and resources that they themselves have. It doesn't need to be somebody directing them. So essentially, learn to budget. Teach kids to budget, but you must be able to do it yourself first before you teach the kids. So this point is important so that when they leave school and go out in industry, they don't spend a lot of time wasting money and resources because they never learned budget. But they will then focus straight on what they need to do straight away, and they start doing those things. The fourth point is related to budgeting. People have not been taught the distinction between an asset and a liability. Most people don't know the distinction, at least in the way they act. They probably know it by definition, but probably not in the way they act. Because how do you see that people don't know the distinction between an asset and liability? It's because once people leave school and they've never been taught budgeting, their first thing is that they concentrate on buying liability. They save money so that they can go and place a deposit to buy a car. They save money so that they can go and pay a deposit to buy a house. They save money so that they can go and pay a deposit to buy shoes, to buy clothes, to buy a holiday overseas. Those are all liabilities, because what that essentially does is that it keeps your money flowing out to somebody else. What that essentially does is that if you don't know the distinction between an asset and liability, your money will always be flowing to somebody else. Whereas you are the one who needs to be paid. If you are the one who needs to be paid, what you need to tell your kids first is that as soon as they start earning money, they should set up a system which pays them. The money should be flowing to them, not to somebody else. Currently, people don't know that distinction. All I'm saying is that we must be able to distinguish asset and liability so that people can focus on building assets. Assets are essentially those things that generate revenue or income, allow it to flow to you, not to somebody else. If you are buying things that allow money to be paid to somebody else, that means you are buying liabilities. So you must know the distinction between an asset and a liability. Very important. You will never build wealth unless you know that distinction. Asset and liability, those things are important. Go for assets first before you buy liability. And let the income from your assets build up sufficient enough for you to be able to buy the things you want in cash if you can. The fifth point is that schools teach children that they should do what they love, or they should focus on their career, a career which pays more money. So two sort of polar opposites. Do what you love or focus on your career and make sure you choose a career that pays more money. The problem is that unless you are willing to focus on a balance, unless you are willing to take both sides of those polar opposites, then you will be very unhappy with either of those options. Because if you, for example, take it this way, if a school teaches a kid to do what they love might never really pay bills. It might not help them build wealth. It might leave them poor and struggling. And they might, yes, be doing what they love, but nobody is interested in paying for that service. The reality is that doing what you love does not necessarily help you have a better life. It might create enjoyment for you, but certainly you might find that your family does not appreciate or might not necessarily support you in what you love, because as a family they will have different needs, and those needs will need funding. On the other hand, if you teach your kids to focus only on the career, especially careers that pay enough money, there are a lot of careers which people have been pushed into by their parents or by their mentors, which they themselves would probably not have taken. All I'm saying is that we need a balanced situation where, in as much as it is important for you to do what you want in your life, make sure that what you want to do pays bills. Eventually, it has a market, is appreciated by other people, and people are willing to pay for what you enjoy doing. So look at what you enjoy doing and find a part of what you enjoy doing which people are prepared to pay for if you provide a service to them. It might not necessarily be everything that you enjoy doing. It might be a part of what you enjoy doing that people really appreciate and are willing to pay you for. So you might then focus on doing that, focusing on finding a career and making a career out of a part of what you enjoy doing and getting paid to do that, so that you can have a balance, so that they can make a career and they can also earn money. One of the words that you learn quite quickly in life is the word tax. Tax as in money that is deducted from your revenue. One of the things we don't teach or we don't get to know early in school is the fact that when you work and when you earn income, you will be taxed. Somebody will come and take part of what you have worked hard for and give it to the government. That is never taught in school. That tax on personal income is higher than tax on corporate income. That is never taught. We're not taught how to maximize or optimize on our tax. We're not. We are taught that all you need to do is to look for the highest paying job. Once you get it, you'll be all right. What people don't say is that once you get that job, you will be paying a lot of tax. The higher you earn, the more you pay. So what is important is to teach kids the different types of revenue for the government, but particularly how these types of revenue for the government ends up affecting them. Because if you knew, probably even yourself, if you knew, you would have optimized your tax right from the very beginning. What taxes should you avoid? And how can you avoid certain taxes legally? I'm not talking about tax avoidance as in doing it illegal. I'm talking about ways of optimizing tax, structuring your revenue and income in such a way that some of the income is not heavily skewed to a certain source of income. Because tax that is on personal income tends to be higher. It gets in Australia, it gets to as high as 45%. Yet, it's important for kids to have known that if they are going to earn high income on personal or on employment, they are going to be taxed more. They should know that early in school so that they can structure their asset and wealth building processes in such a way that they minimize and optimize or sort of reduce legally their tax bill. For example, if your income is coming mostly from business, the government gets to calculate tax after you have paid all your expenses. On what remains, they then calculate tax. Whereas if you earn income from employment, the government first takes money out of your salary before you pay expenses. The government has first priority to get taxed, to get their money from your salary. Whereas the government has last priority to get their money from revenue that is earned from a business venture. The seventh and the last thing that I want to mention is pretty much the fact that most people are never taught about the importance of investing in school. If they probably study something around investment, it's never impressed upon them that they ought to. It's not something that you are taught to make sure you do. It's not you have to. Besides, people are never taught so much about compound interest and how it is important for them and how it works in their favor. How good is it to know that early enough, if you are young, you can put money in the bank today and you leave it for a long time to generate interest for you. You don't have to work hard again. How good is it to be told early enough that if you invest in shares, you will continuously receive a dividend for the rest of the time you are invested in the company and as long as that company is still operational? How good is that? And as a result, they miss on the important advantage of compounding. You ought to have not just learned how to calculate it, but you ought to have learned how to actually use it to your advantage to support and prop your life. Compound interest is your friend. And if you don't know this friend, how can you take advantage of compound interest? How can you take advantage of compounding and growing wealth when you have never been taught about the importance of compound interest? Teach children to invest. Money is important. Don't say money is not important. Money is important. Let children know that they can build their life, build their wealth by investing for themselves. Because if they do, they will then be in a position to give more, to do more good.